Welcome to our class. In this class, we will look at SQL joins. An SQL join is a keyword, or technically an operator, that is used to combine rows from two or more tables. A join is based on common fields between those two tables. Most commonly, it would be a join between a primary and a foreign key. By establishing this relationship, it enables us to retrieve the data from two or more tables based on an SQL query. There are four types of joins. The most common is the inner join, or just a join. You technically do not need to use the word inner. Notice everything is uppercase. What an inner join is essentially an intersection between two tables. It will return all the rows when there is a match on that field based on the query in those two tables. And because inner joins are used on the web, we will focus on an inner join. However, there are other types of join: left join, right join, and an outer join. An outer join will return all the rows when there is a match and also with null. A left join will return a match from those in the right table plus all the records in the left, regardless of whether there's a match. A right join does just the opposite. It returns all of the rows in the right and just the ones that there is a match in the left. There are reasons for using these different joins, mainly in order to learn more about the data. For display on the web, we're using the inner join or just the join. There are two ways that you can write a join. Also, always need to select. You would need to identify what columns you want in the result set, and these columns would be between the two tables. Then you need to specify the first table. Then you would have the join operator with the second table, and then you would have the on clause, which essentially is tying in the common field between those two tables. You also can write a join without the join operator by merely specifying the two tables and then also with the on clause or keyword identifying the common fields. So if you remember, we had a members table and an advisors table. Some members had an advisor, some didn't. In the members table, there was an advisor ID field, was the foreign key. In the advisor table, we had the advisor ID field, which was the primary key. Because it is not efficient to repeat data, we stored the information about the advisor in a separate table. However, should you wish to find out what was the name of the advisor that a student had, you could do this with a join. So we would be joining these two tables on a common field, which is the advisor ID. So let's take a look at the select statement here. And there are two ways of doing it. And when you work with a select statement with multiple tables, you will see a dot syntax, table name dot column name, to differentiate them because the same column name could exist in both tables. So here we have a select members.fname, comma, members.lname, the first and last name of this member or the student, advisors.fname, comma, advisors.lastname. That would be the first and last name of the advisor. From members, the table, inner join, the table advisors, on, here's our condition, members.advisor ID equals advisors.advisor ID. Remember, the advisor ID is the foreign key in the members table, the primary key in the advisors table. You don't necessarily need a where condition. Without the where, it would return all of them, but just to show you, if I were to impose a where condition, I would be able to find out the name and the advisor for student ID 2. So if you are using the inner join operator, it does not matter on which side of the join the tables go. The first table can go after the from, or the second table can go after the from. It doesn't matter. It does not affect your query. The order in which you select the column names indicates how they will be displayed in the results set. The order in which you specify the common fields does not matter either. phpMyAdmin allows us to create the join syntax and to select the columns and tables. And up until this point, we have been executing SQL queries on an individual table. However, when you work with a join, you need to select the database. So if you notice on the left-hand side, my database is selected. Now I will click on the Query tab to execute the query. And phpMyAdmin is very smart. It knows that there are different tables. It knows you're going to be doing a join. Therefore, the screen is drastically different from the screens we have seen earlier. Notice at the bottom of the screen, on the left, it shows you the tables that are to be used. Even though we're not using all the tables, they're still there. Next to that is the box where the query is actually going to be created. So phpMyAdmin can create some of the query automatically for you, and then you have to go in and finish it up. By hitting the Submit Query button, you will submit the query. Now, what we have in this top grid is the ability to create the columns, and it defaults to giving us 3 columns. We can add more. There's also rows for criteria, where we can add and delete based on what we need in our query. So you can also create a 3-table join, and in order to have a 3-table join, you must have a foreign key relationship set, and every field that's being involved needs to have an index to be set for that foreign key. I advise doing this also for a 2-table join. You'll always want to have your foreign key set to have an index value so that you can draw that relationship. So supposing we wanted to see which students received which scholarships. If you remember, we have a scholarships table and a members table. We also have that 3rd table that is nothing other than 3 columns, the scholarship ID and the student ID. So those would be the 3 tables that would be involved in this join. However, in order to create the relationship, what you would do, you would go to the More command and choose Designer. It would take you into the Designer screen. On the left, you would choose the relationship. However, if one of the fields was missing an index, you would have that message as you see here, and the point is that you need to have indexes set on your foreign keys before you begin to create relationships. So you would need to go back to the table, and under this setting for unique, you can drop it down and choose index. It will ask you if you want to do it, and you can say OK. You can also verify what your indexes are or if they are set in the SQL Query tab with the command show index from and the name of the table. So this is an example of the structure also where you would be verifying your relationships and setting your foreign keys. In the Designer tab, you can actually view the relationships and set them. You will see these lines being drawn. So what we're doing is we're using these 3 tables. The table on the left is a 3-column table. We're looking at the scholarship ID and the student ID, which here are just indexed or foreign keys in this table. With the scholarship table, the scholarship underscore ID is the primary key, and in the student table, I only have the part of it shown. The student ID is the primary key also. So we have, these are the fields that we're joining on. And here on the left, we could see the results set. We're showing all of the information from the scholarship, plus we're showing the student ID, their first name and last name. And how we got that from the scholarship underscore students table, because that had the scholarship ID and the student ID, and from joining the scholarship ID in the SQL plus using that student ID, we were able to retrieve the student's first name and last name. And this is an example of what it would look like. And sometimes when phpMyAdmin generates a join, it will automatically do a left join for whatever reasons, and you just need to go back in and change it. Here again, it puts those little tick marks in, and those little tick marks are technically the quotations on the keyboard at the upper left underneath the tilde. That's not a single quote, that is a tick mark. You might also hear them referred to as magic quotes. As I said, it puts them in. Sometimes it's easier to just not work with them. So some rules for using joins. Joining 2 tables is 1 join statement, 3 tables is 2 join statements, 4 tables is 3 join statements, etc. And as I said earlier, they are generally inner joins. So let's take a look at phpMyAdmin. If I were to select the college database, you can see it's selected on the left, and now we're in structure, and I am going to click on my query tab. Notice that my view has drastically changed. However, before I do this, I'm going to go to the More down to the Designer. And in the Designer view, I can see my different tables, and I can actually move them around. And notice I already have my join line set here. Over on the left, these are your commands. And if we didn't have this, and this is called a join line, if we didn't have this, I could go over there and click Create Relationship. I can also toggle them on and off. So if that wasn't there, I would go into Create Relationship, and here it's telling me, notice, select reference key, which would be the primary key, the advisor ID. Now it's telling me select foreign key, which is the advisor ID down here, and then it will be asking me to create the relationship. And what you want to do is you probably want to do a restrict. And what that means is, it means that you cannot add a member and assign them an ID number that does not exist in the ID table. All right, this is part of referential integrity of the data. And then I were to click OK. So that is essentially how you go in here and create your relationships. As I said, I already did it, and this is what it would look like. Now we're going to go back to the query, and I'm going to minimize my column on the left, and I am going to zoom out of here. Notice we have 3 columns set, and if I scroll down, here's my tables and here's my SQL window. What I'm going to do is I am going to choose my columns. So that what I want is I want the first name of the member, and notice the dot syntax, members.fname. Now I want the last name of the member. I want the first name of the advisor. However, there's not enough columns. Down here I can add or delete columns. I want one more. I click Update Query. There's one more. Let me just go over here. And this is advisor last name. Now, by default, the show box is checked, meaning you're going to see these columns. If you didn't want to see those columns, you could just uncheck it, and those columns would still be involved in the SQL query. Now, here is sorting order, and we're going to sort it by member's last name. If we had some other criteria, such as a where, we could type it in here, and then there's ands and ors. We can modify. We also can add criteria rows. We're not going to do that. I'm just showing you how to do this. Now, if I were to click Update Query right here, what it's going to do, it's going to actually put that query right here for me. And as I said earlier, don't ask me why, it puts a left join in there, so I just delete it. Notice it already set everything for us. The tick marks are in there. Selecting these field names from advisors, join the members table on. These are our 2 fields, the foreign key and the primary key, and this is our order by. Should I wish to submit this query? Notice it's telling me it's showing 33 rows total, 24 we're seeing. And what we have is we have a list of all of the students, last name first. I guess I should have put the last name column over there. And these are all the different advisors. Now, I can go back and edit this, and if I wanted to get rid of the order by and just put a where, and I'm going to say where member, there we go, there's members, dot, student ID equals 2. What I need to do is I need to get my tick marks in here. So we have the tick mark around the table name, we have the tick mark around the ID, and if I were to click the go, there we are. We have the name for the student and the advisor. So again, you need to select the table, go to the query, and work in this query dialog.